Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for your Ring of Honor post-show here on Fightful. It is September 19th, and we've got a lot to talk about between ROH and TNA. Joe Pearl is going to be going solo all by his lonesome self at the end of this to bring you your TNA post-show while Cresta is out for a little bit. So please show him some love on the back of this. They had Mike Santana in a death match, a Texas death match, which are always the deathiest, and as far as I know, as well as that Cardona versus Rhino in action. So please stick around to talk to him about it. We're touching tips over here. We love it. We miss MXM on ROH, I feel like. We do. But they're lighting it up elsewhere. But we've got some stuff to talk about with Ring of Honor, man, because this product that felt like it was finding its feet no longer feels that way in these more current episodes. Since the last time you and I have talked, though, a huge TV deal coming down the pike. So we will see what happens now that we are getting $170 million a year from Warner going into the AEW and ROH product. Maybe more, depending on whatever Shockwave is. We're going to find out. But to talk about it all, I'm joined by SB3. This was a short episode, so we might be able to get into some more generalized chat. And whatever you guys want to talk about, please leave a super chat.
And I have an announcement.
Uh-oh.
This episode was a short one, and it's been a while since we had a short one. But you know what it's also been a while for, Kate?
The return of the list?
The return of the SP3 list, and it's a special one. It's a special one that relates to me and Kate. Our individual favorites are also one of the greatest rivalries of all time. And Kate had a tweet that got a lot of attention talking about this rivalry. So I thought it was only appropriate. The top 5 best Bryan versus Nigel matches of all time. Not just the top 5 best matches, but I would suggest for fans who want to get up to date and get, I'm here to be a guide for you, because Bryan and Nigel is a feud that's very close to my heart. It's kind of the feud that really made me in love with Ring of Honor and independent wrestling overall. So these are the 5 matches that I suggest you watch before next Wednesday at Grand Slam.
Brittle Bryan and our dear Nigel McGuinness, both medically cleared to compete on the same timeline, is a blessing. So I'm so glad that we have the list back. I was wondering if there would be an opening for its return. So the good news is the list is awesome. The bad news is it usually means we got shortchanged on them caring about ROH in any way, shape, or form. But we're going to talk about all that and more. Get in those super chats if there's anything you want to talk about. Please also leave a thumbs up on this video. It helps people find us in the algorithm, and that's especially important for this show, of any of the shows that we do here on Fightful. And we'll also remind you to subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. Best $5 in the biz. You got the Mark Order doing their claw thing, but we just do the $5 here. We do the 5. Best $5 in the business. Some contract news about Kevin Owens went up earlier today. Sounds like he was contacted for a contract renewal by WWE. We'll see what comes of that. He's an interesting one to watch because I think a lot of people assumed he would go to AEW last time. He had more to accomplish. Where's going to pay that guy more? Where is going to give that guy what he wants is something that only he knows, and we can watch because, man, I love seeing that guy wrestle in either environment for sure. So some good stuff and plenty of more contract news on the way this year. This is an enormous contract year, and seemed like that's been the case all year, but there's plenty more to come. So subscribe to FightfulSelect.com. You also get a Discord if you want to avoid weirdos and freaks on the internet. You can hop into the Discord. No shade thrown, shade a little bit thrown. But it really is a wonderful environment, a wonderful place to spend time to talk about wrestling, and a moderated, really wonderful group of supporters in there. There's also the Ask SRS channel. He does his best to get everything answered for you. There's also the Ask SRS/Backstage Report show on Fightful Select that you can check out as well. And me and Alex Pulaski doing pay-per-view, paywalled post shows. Say it 10 times fast, but me and SP3 out here, not running from the grind. That's what we're doing. But SP3, now that people are starting to filter in a little bit, I always try to give us a couple more minutes on the front because we see those numbers going up. We appreciate you checking us out over here. But you have been on the Collision post show over the past couple weeks. You joined me for that Collision hybrid SmackDown post show that we did a couple weeks ago. Kind of feels like that's ROH Jobber Edition, because we see so many of them just like being used as enhancement talent. This product is once again feeling really directionless to me, and I have mixed feelings about that, because I love seeing talent get the opportunity to show up on Collision. I love seeing things like Deanna and Taya Valkyrie. Spoiler alert, that's coming down the pike as an alliance. I got to see that live yesterday start to come to fruition. So it is great to see talent start to advance and move on, but it's giving us nothing to invest in this product. And it feels like a lot of the talent that have been there consistently kind of just spinning its wheels, especially in that multi-man division. Are you feeling as kind of down on this as I am again?
It's feeling once again like ROH Dark. It's just a series of matches. Sometimes you'll get people that are kind of on the same level. Like we got Infantry versus SAP on this show, which was kind of a match where I was like, hey, this is cool, because I don't really know who should win this one. Maybe SAP should win. The Infantry is great, but SAP has been getting a little bit more of a push. So it was nice to see them mixing it up. We actually got champions in the main event matchup, which is something that Kate always asks for. So that's something to look positive on. But yeah, there is no like direction for anything. And like the biggest this episode gets the biggest thumbs out, because Athena sets the record for the longest reigning Ring of Honor champion of all time, and she's not on the show, like
Not
at
on the
all.
show, no
You don't even
celebration.
no mention, no congratulations. You would think that nothing's happened. If you watch this show and this is your first time watching Ring of Honor, you just got Honor Club, you would think you don't even know who the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion is, because there was absolutely no mention of her. Maybe it was during Red Velvet and Allison Kay, but that's not enough.
I don't think so. I don't think there was.
So yeah, that's a big L. That's a big L for this episode overall. This should have been something. Like, even if you didn't record anything when these matches were taped, at least do a plug-in. Do a whole plug-in of like, hey, congratulations to Athena. Do the voiceover, do highlights, congratulations, setting a record, passing Samoa Joe. Y'all been talking about it for weeks, and then it happens, and then y'all don't say anything about it.
It is genuinely very, like, that kind of upsets me. That kind of upsets me, because she's been the stalwart of the brand. She broke Samoa Joe's record. She has single-handedly carried them through a sea of just, when I say careless booking, I mean booking with no care. Like, booking without the intent to follow through on any of the creative that you're setting up for this product in general. And she's been the one thing that has always been consistent, always the bright shining star of this. And to your point, there was at least champions on the show. There were wrestlers and tag teams that felt like they were on the same level. There's no contenderships for anything. It's really, really, it's frustrating that it makes it the worst, like, televised product under the AEW, between WWE and AEW, and it breaks my heart to say, because it was my favorite brand from a historic standpoint. But like, this is just a complete lack of effort on their part, and the talent deserved better. That's what I always go back to. Like, it's less fun for us to watch, but like, why should the Infantry be motivated right now? Why should, like, any of the women that were in that tournament really be motivated right now? Like, it's really rough. It's really rough, and it's unfair to them. But Ryan Lambert saying, remember to like the vid and touch those tips. Yes, please touch those tips in the chat. Please leave on the YouTube comment section tip touching. I love to confuse people, so that's a really fun thing. I think Shawn has his fruit emoji gimmick on Mondays. You guys can do the tip touching gimmick there. Miss MXM on these episodes for sure. But Shea Monster saying, TMDK SP3 body problem. Got a jet. Sign Maggie Lee. Yes, she is excellent. I'm always impressed by her when she's on ROH, and from the limited stuff I've gotten to see from her on the indies. Would not be mad about seeing her signed, but I would also like them to see a more efficient use of the roster that they do have on ROH. That would be refreshing. But Meet Normus, I think, asking if his chat went through. We don't do Humper chats on Thursdays, so if you sent it via Humper chat, just put it in the regular chat, and I will read it. If you send it via Super Chat, it didn't go through, so that's the deal with that. But we always appreciate your support, Meet Normus. I give it 2 fillets up, and I'm a vegan, so we appreciate you here.
I can't chill. I'm beef. That's the best catchphrase in the business today, ladies and
Can't
gentlemen.
chill on beef. He's your dude. I love that you're so in on beef, and like I enjoy him a lot, but like he's like your guy, and I respect that.
I buy stock in people. Like I've already I bought low on the Outrunner stock. You know, I was a little so when they were on Ring of Honor, but once they started selling them T-shirts, they could get that big pop in Chicago when I came on the Collision / SmackDown post show. I bought my stock then, bought it low. Now I'm in on it. I'm like, they're the next AEW World Tag Team Champions. But beef, I'm telling y'all, beef. He needs to be the pure champion, the television champion, the Ring of Honor world champion. If you want to turn this whole brand around, you gotta buy that stock in beef. I'm trying to help y'all with y'all stock exchange. You buy low, you're gonna sell high. You can sell high, but I'm gonna keep my investment in beef. Beef is going all the way.
I respect and appreciate that very, very much. But let's get into this episode of Ring of Honor. Beef and more. We've got so much to talk about with Capricity and, of course, welcoming everybody to the broadcast. And we get our Proving Ground match between Red Velvet and Allison Kay opening up this show, and Red Velvet getting the win here. Very nice to see Allison Kay back as well. Loved the return of Maggie Lee, but Allison Kay feels like someone that is a ready-made star if they ever did want to put pen to paper with her. Like, definitely has something that is unique in her own. We are kind of getting to the point, in my opinion, with this division on the women's side that has grown so much that the things that I think are missing are big-time matches for the women, i.e. your casino gauntlets and things like that. A couple more stables, I think, would be good. I've been saying for a long time, Serena Deeb having a dojo that's just a flag with no students in it doesn't really make sense. So stables for the women would be really good. And I think we're at the point where a legitimate traveling tag team belt is something that is needed. If they're going to expand into whatever Shockwave might be, I really think traveling tag belts would be a very good idea, because this roster is only getting bigger. There are people that are coming back from injury. You certainly want to cultivate a continued and healthy women's wrestling environment. You're going to want to continue to be able to sign people and have places for them to go. They're kind of running out of space, which is not a problem I thought this division would ever have under the AEW ROH umbrella. Let's get tag titles in here. I think if you wanted the Hex to come in and be a part of it, maybe even your inaugural winners, I think that's something that could be really fun. But always happy to see Allison Kay on my television. Red Velvet, we say it every week, just like a transformed wrestler from who she came in as, doing cooler finishers, doing cooler stuff in the ring, a little less reckless, but still violent. I really, really like it from her. Good stuff here, and hey, we're seeing more action from her than we got to see from Billie Starkz. No fault of her own, but some good stuff here. I do gotta say, both situations that we had Proving Ground matches for tonight, why weren't they just defenses then, right? Like, if they're gonna be losing anyway, at some point you should just have it be defenses. But a good opening contest. What did you think? Oh no, is SP3 frozen? Am I frozen? Who's frozen? Me and SP3 both have bad internet. Oh no, I think SP3 is frozen though. Chat, let me know who's frozen. I think it's SP3. Wow, he froze out and just left. Dang, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I liked the match. And if SP3 is just gonna leave, that's how bad this episode was, okay? SP3 just had a peace out. That's how unhappy we were with this episode. But we will let him get his internet together, let him get his thoughts back together, and we'll continue on with this episode. But we do have a little bit of time because this was a shorter episode. But in the chat, let me know what you want to talk about. If there's anything you want to talk about under the AEW ROH umbrella that you would like to discuss. Tim McFowle with a lovely chat saying, money because Kate deserves it for dealing with internet weirdos and because SP3 is awesome. I can't justify the money for ROH anymore, and that makes me sad because Athena, Red, Ian, Caprice, and so many more are amazing. Yes, that's what I always go back to, is that the talent deserves better. The talent deserves better. Thank you for the money. Sadly, very used to people being weird at me on the internet, but SP3 is, in fact, awesome. Be kind to other people. Usually if people are acting weird toward you, I always just try and think of terms of like, you never know what they're going through, that it makes them feel good to act mean, right? Like, not to get too philosophical on a wrestling post show, but like, if you feel good being mean to people, something's going on with you. And that's really sad. That's really sad. So, you just never know. You just never know. Is the consensus about ROH the same outside of Fightful? I think so. I think a lot of people feel like it's fun and the talent is great, but that the product is directionless. I think almost unanimously people feel like this is a much better product when we've had consistent tapings and they've been forced to plan out what they want to do for a series of weeks. So I think there's a lot of agreement across that. I love the talent that's there. So part of me griping every Thursday is me wanting better for them, because I think there's some really, really good world-class talent on there. But I think SP3 might have his stuff straightened out. Get your shit together, SP3! Oh no, now I can't hear you! Oh no. The technology gods are coming at us again. I got nothing. Should I start just miming my mouth and pretending like...
How about now?
There he is!
Alright, cool.
I was gonna start just going like... and messing with you back, but...
It was so weird, because it was like my headphones first cut off, so I couldn't hear you. So I was like, okay, what's wrong with that? So I went to check that, and then my whole screen goes black, and it says, you encountered a problem, restarting computer. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Dun, dun, dun. Well, you're back now,
but I'm here.
And you're better
I'm
than
back.
ever. So
I'm back and better than ever. But no, I did like Red Velvet getting the win in the opener. I don't know where you're at right now.
No, we kind of just we're having a little bit of a side discussion until you were able to come back and give your thoughts. I'm very impressed that you remembered where we left off. If I was in your situation, I would have been like, what the hell are we talking about? But yes, I had gone on a substantive rant about them introducing tag belts, but also kind of found our way back to what we got out of Red Velvet and Allison Kay tonight.
Yeah, it was a good stuff. I liked it, Allison Kay kind of no selling like the clotheslines at one point, showing that she was like the bigger of the two individuals. And I agree with you. I think Allison Kay is just so talented and someone that probably should have been signed by now. Like, I know she's kind of been floating since the Hex were NWA tag team champions. What was that, like 2 years ago now, or a year ago at this point? So I think that she would be, a good addition to Ring of Honor, someone with experience, someone that could help out other people, whether it be like in just a small feud or potentially in one of the title divisions. And it would be someone that you can kind of like place into that Ring of Honor women's division alongside like someone like Rachael Ellering, who seems like she's getting a more prominent role right now.
That was exactly who I was thinking of when we were talking about a little bit of like a place that Allison Kay could settle into. Very much I could see her in a similar role to where Rachael Ellering's been, where she's been in and out of longer term stories. She hasn't really fully been in a title picture, but you could heat her up real fast if you need to. Really likable. I think Allison Kay could probably play babyface or heel extremely well, but some good stuff tonight. Some good stuff tonight from both ladies and our TV champion, putting together what I'm hoping feels like a productive reign, since that Billy Starks one didn't really go anywhere, and this is supposed to be like an exciting belt. This is a women's mid-card belt. We don't really have that in either company on either brand. So yeah. That should be something that feels very important. NXT, of course, has theirs, but I would say similarly, the booking has suffered a little bit. But let's move along to this video package we get, which is a recap of Dustin, Rhodes, and their feud with the Dark Order ahead of the Proving Ground match tonight. We'll, of course, talk about that later in the evening, because that is your main event for tonight, we move on to Gates of Agony, who defeat Dante Leon and Trip Jordy with the Open the Gates on Leon. You're going to hear me say this a lot tonight, and you heard me say it a lot last week. Perfectly fine match. Why? Why'd it happen?
I don't know.
What are they in contendership for? What do these wins mean? Trio? Are they... Like, I get that they're Cage of Agony when Brian Cage is around, but, like, which division are you in on ROH? Are you on ROH? Do you just beat people up after matches on behalf of other people? Like, what is the identity? Because I'll tell you what, like, Kaun and Liona, like, very underrated, in my opinion, as far as workers. Especially Liona. Like, very, very smooth in the ring. Very underrated. I would love to see, like, if you're not going to use these guys, have them do World Tag League again and have them go on a real run. The same way that Takeshita had a really great G1 and he's able to ride some momentum out of that. Like, do that. Do that, because they are just aimlessly floating around the product, and, like, a lot of people, I feel like, are on this product. Perfectly serviceable match, no problem with it. They looked good, but I'm already aware that they are big and angry and can wrestle. Give me something the frick else and give them something to do. You're wasting their talent and their time on stuff like this. What did you think of this match, and do you know where it's headed? Because I don't.
I mean, the only issue with them being in World Tag League is that you have to do something with them after World Tag League. And
That's
I think
true.
I don't think it was this week, but a couple of weeks ago, I thought it was hilarious when Ian said, oh, these guys, recently were in World Tag League 2023. I was like, Ian, you said recently and World Tag League
A year
2023.
ago.
I don't think that's the same thing. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're gonna do a squash match, we want to see where that's heading to. What are you setting up? Are they going to be in the tag team title division? And I think we got more of an answer to that by the end of the show, that maybe, they're going to be contenders to go after Dustin and Sammy Guevara, or them and Brian Cage is going after Dustin and the Von Erichs. And we haven't got any explanation of where the Von Erichs are since we're not in Texas anymore. It's like
They're not allowed to leave the state. They're so Texas that they only can defend in Texas.
Apparently, they can't go beyond state lines of
borders,
Texas. so crazy. They got to get their work visa to get out of Texas.
They can, but they have to change their name. Like, if you are a Von Erich, you have to stay within Texas. You're not allowed to leave. So they can go, but they would have to be like the Van Erichs or something. They would have to change it up. And they could leave via van. It's perfect. And they could have Viva Van in their stable. I am a genius, I think. I'm a genius.
Look at that. You just found the role for Viva Van. She could be a part of the Van Erich stable. Van Erich and Rhodes. The Van Erich has to go on the road to Rhodes to Dustin.
Shit, we're good at this. My God.
We just gave you a whole story. That's like 6 months of TV for Ring of Honor standards. They do 5 months of squashes, and then they do a month of actual real matches. There you go. That's Ring of Honor.
Someone comes from the main roster and wins. So it's great.
I feel like I really was like thinking about this, watching this show, Kate. I was like, where did this all go wrong? Because we were high on this show like 2 months ago. You know where it all went wrong? Dustin Rhodes wins all the tag team titles. That's where it all. I'm sorry, Dustin. I like you. I was complimenting you 2 months ago too. You're selling, your ability to connect with the fans. It's great. It's fantastic. It honestly would have been a much better story of you winning all these titles and then going for the world championship, because Mark Briscoe hasn't had a story on this company and like in this brand in what feels like months. I think it was like a month and a half ago he faced Beast Mortals, which was a story started on AEW that just translated into over here. But now Beast Mortals on to bigger and better things. Mark Briscoe don't even think about the Ring of Honor World Championship. He's too busy dropping change on Chris Jericho's car. So like, it all went wrong when we started giving Dustin Rhodes too much, just to find out that his contract's expired in like 2 days, and he has He has like 8 different titles.
I have a fair compromise. When he's with the Von Erichs, he's Dustin Rhodes. But when he's with Sammy Guevara, he has to revive the character of Seven. Your thoughts?
I like it. I'm here for it.
It worked out so well the first time that I think
So like say he wants to go on AEW television. He's already got the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles. He can be, Dustin Rhodes with the Von Erichs with that. He could be Seven with Sammy Guevara, Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions. But then he can go to AEW and win the AEW World Tag Team titles with Shane Taylor, and he's Black Reign.
I'm in 100%. We got to see Black Taurus, Beast Mortos, because he
was with STP.
His name. He was with Shane Taylor Promotions. Black Reign. I'm in. Beat Norma sharing in our frustrations here, saying ROH felt like Dork Elevation. Damn, Auto Corvettes. I think Twitter is Dork Elevation actually, but I hope this goes to Max, so they have to care. I hope this is included in Max for a lot of reasons. One, it would streamline login fatigue for a lot of people. I think if you see a lot of AEW go to Max purely, I think you're going to see people giving up on Honor Club faster because they're going to be like, well, I get my pay-per-views on this thing. I'm hoping maybe they have simulcasting in it. Like, I'm going to get to watch it in real time. I'll just nix this other thing and go full in on this one thing. And I think it's important that they do that. And I think it's egregious that they charge $10 a month for this product that they don't care about and expect everybody. It's the highest thing to pay for, like in wrestling. So outside of pay-per-views, obviously. So I'm with you. I hope they move to Max for that. And I also think that's just good added value on Max because ROH is a product that people can pick up and drop off whenever they feel like it. I think actually works a lot better. But let's keep it plugging down the road. Thank you for the support tonight. We need it. Because this was a rough little episode. I love my talent on it, though, and I like seeing Preston Vance get this fresh start. Be enormous with a piece of a bit that carries over throughout the week, saying, I need to put some respect on Preston Vance's name when talking about Meat Mayhem. Hopefully he stays away from the Dark Order and gets a proper push. So here's the thing. I review NXT, as you know.
Yes.
And there was a long time on there where every women's promo had the feel or the exact phrase of put some respect on my name, and that became put some respect on my name because they all talk like they're Valley Girls and WWE cadence. So now that's just something we say all the time throughout the week now, me and Alex Pulowski. So you do need to put some respect on Preston Vance's name when it comes to his meatiness, because he beat Brandon Cutler with a discus lariat that was so big it made Nigel McGuinness squeal with joy, I'm sure. So after I get SP3's thoughts about this match, we're going to crack open the list, and I want to hear your number 5 and number 4. But first of all, what did you think of this match? And second of all, what do you think of this reboot of Preston Vance? I think it's in its infancy, but I think it's a smart direction for them to go.
Yeah, the match was fine. It was a little bit more than a squash, so it made it different on this card. That's already a bonus in its favor, and I'm willing to give Preston Vance a chance over here. I think that he has more upward mobility in a Ring of Honor setting than he ever will in an AEW setting. I think that AEW is kind of like their main roster, but he's still a developing type of guy, so he's perfect for Ring of Honor. And I'm liking this whole reboot for him, and him actually being a babyface, coming down the babyface tunnel too, so you can tell, just in case you weren't sure, he is a babyface. So I like Preston Vance. I'm willing to give him more of a chance on Ring of Honor. So yeah, I'm digging this so far. So far, so good in my book.
I'm digging it too, but you know what else I dig? Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson. You know what I don't dig? Clams. Because I'm a civilian and a lady and an animal rights activist, and I respect the clams. So I don't go digging clams, but I dig me some Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson feud. What do you have for us on number 5 and number 4 on your list here?
All right, so number 5 on my list, I think it was just appropriate. Like, I had a couple of different ones where I was like, hey, maybe this can be number 5. Maybe Epic Encounter, when they went to a 60-minute time limit draw in a 2 out of 3 falls matchup. Maybe that can be number 5. I said maybe their 20-minute time limit draw in Survival of the Fittest in 2007. Maybe their first big matchup in Ring of Honor, night of a weekend of champions, where Nigel won by countout by cheating against Bryan Danielson in a Pure Rules matchup. I was like, those couple of matches were there, but I think it was very appropriate that I make this number 5, because like I said, I want you guys to go out of your way to watch these matchups. If you watch Ring of Honor like we do, you got Honor Club already, and a lot of these matches are available to you, and if not, you can find them on YouTube as well. But number 5, Glory by Honor, the final countdown. The whole reason why we're doing this matchup next Wednesday is because it is on the eve of the 15th anniversary of their final matchup in Ring of Honor, and I was there live in 2009. So it was one of the rare cases that I got to see one of these matches between Nigel and Bryan Danielson, and I remember the whole build with Bryan versus guys like Davey Richards and Kevin Steen along the way to his final countdown. It was very much like the graduation for both guys, because both guys were supposed to go to WWE together. So it was like two of the legends of Ring of Honor going at it one last time before they go off and become big stars on the main stage of WWE. It was a very emotional night being in that building, and New York loves Bryan Danielson, and they've had such a unique relationship with Nigel McGuinness. We were the first crowd that booed Nigel out the building when he got hurt before a title defense at Final Battle 2007. So to see 2 years later him in that stage after his great Ring of Honor world title run facing Bryan in front of a sold out crowd in the Hammerstein Ballroom, that is the reason. It's not one of their best matches, but I think it's one of their most important that you have to go out of your way to see. So final countdown in 2009, Glory by Honor, Nigel and Bryan, their final match in Ring of Honor. That's number 5. And number 4 is also from the Hammerstein Ballroom, but we'll go a year earlier from 6th anniversary show between Nigel McGuinness defending the Ring of Honor World Championship against Bryan Danielson. And like I said, kind of going back to what I said before, it stems from that whole controversy that really started at the beginning of Nigel McGuinness' world title run, where he faces Austin Aries at Rising Above 2007, gets his head bashed into the barricade, and then the next night he's supposed to defend the title at Final Battle back in Hammerstein, and he says that he's too hurt. He had a concussion. He said he's too hurt, and we booed him out the building because we're like, no, Bryan went through injuries and he kept defending his title. He kept showing up for us, so we're gonna boo you out the building. And it started his whole heel turn, where it really took his whole title reign to the next level because the fans rallied behind him. He became a fan favorite, chasing the title against Bryan, and then eventually being the guy that dethroned Morishima. But just him being hurt or in his body kind of giving out on him turned the whole fans against him, and it was really stemming from New York. So coming back to New York a few months later, him and Bryan Danielson facing, and I love the stipulation that they set up in a promo earlier in the night where Bryan couldn't do any headshots, any moves to the head, none of the hammer and anvil elbows. He had to beat him by using, wrestling moves. So it was a great stipulation. And then in the end, Nigel using the hammer and anvil elbows to Bryan because Bryan couldn't use it against him, and then beating him with the London Dungeon after Bryan was already knocked out. Great finish. The storytelling was exceptional, and that was my first time live seeing Nigel versus Bryan one-on-one. So that's why it's number 4 on my list.
You're going to hear SP3 get to brag a lot with this list, I feel like, but it is...
No, that's all my bragging. That's the 2 matches on my list. That's the 2 matches on my list that I was live for, so no more bragging. I wanted to get the bragging out the way.
That's fair. I respect that. But it is something that pops me. I think of that match a lot when I see the Blackpool Combat Club use those hammer and anvil strikes in present day. And just when I hear Nigel talk about Brittle Brian and picking on him for not being able to follow through with certain matches or whatever, I think about that, of him being concussed. And it's almost as if him as a heel commentator is continuing their story. But I will.
So it's like they actually have a story. I actually had someone in my chat over on True Hill Heat that was like, "Oh yeah, so what? They first 15 years ago. There's no story." I was like, It's kind of like you haven't been listening to Nigel this whole time, because he's kind of said the story, and then they did a whole video package last night that explained the story again. But I guess there's no story. Okay, cool.
Can't find it.
Can't find it.
Story. Can't find the story.
I think people don't get it confused. That it's okay if you say this story is not for me. I don't like the story. But to say that there's no story, you are lying to yourself.
Yeah, and it is like, I tweeted something that got a lot of traction earlier, and I don't want to trudge it up too much, but my point was, when you go back and dive into the matches, like SP3 is pointing out, like you can find on YouTube, like you can find with a simple Google search, it enriches the story that is being told to you. It enriches Nigel McGuinness's commentary over the past few years, holding a 20-year grudge against Bryan Danielson. It enriches what you see in the video packages. And my favorite thing about wrestling, and my favorite thing about any art form, is how many different ways there are to tell stories. Like, WWE's gotten much better under Triple H at expanding the way that they tell stories, but I think you can go even broader. And AEW goes broader, and New Japan goes completely different, right? Because they are not live weekly episodic television, they're a live events company. And it's a blessing to be in a wrestling timeline when there's so many different ways to tell stories. Not a curse, but it's a better experience for, in my opinion, as a fan, to be open-minded to the ways that those stories get told. So if there are certain layers that aren't being spoon-fed to you, but the current stories are brought to more vibrant colors on screen when you do go back and watch stuff, like, to me, that's worth it. I do the same thing with music. I don't assume that the best music is on the most accessible radio or Spotify playlist in present day. Like, I go back and listen to a lot of other stuff. That's just the way that I consume art. And I think it's an important thing, because it's so much more rewarding to watch the evolution of stuff, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a media personality, talking head, so-called journalist over here. But the so-called youngest men alive, the Outrunners, Truth Magnum, Turbo Floyd, and Eric Lee are out, and they cut a promo calling out the Iron Savages, Boulder Bronson and Jack Jameson, and they said that they respected their muscles, but that they did not have any glamour, and that they would take them on any time, any place. SP3, we've been in on the Outrunners for a while, you especially. They're a hot merch seller. They're getting incredible ovations in Kentucky. I said this a while ago. Big month for the Silly Gooses. MXM really connecting with the crowd. The Outrunners really connecting with the crowd. But what I like about it is there's room for that in the AEW tag division when you have FTR, when you have GYV. There's like a lot of space for diversity of types of tag teams. And I'm all for fun tag teams when A, they can back it up in the ring, and B, there's a cleverness to the silliness, right? Like there's something that is compelling you to get down to the ring. I feel like MXN has done a phenomenal job doing that. And I think the Outrunners doing stuff like this is another great example of it. Very fun. But they're hitting them where it hurts by saying they have no glamour here. I mean, is the Savage Sauce not glamorous, SP3? Your thoughts?
Well, they specified they think they have the glitz, but they don't have the glamour.
Sure.
The Outrunners have the glamour, and they're ready to go. They toss in their sunglasses. I loved Truth, and like tell him Floyd, like he was Animal taking it over to Hawk. Tell him Hawk. It was great. It was great stuff. I love the Outrunners.
Fun.
It's so much fun. They're just charisma plus 10, and I'm telling y'all, you want to see the Outrunners at their peak? Put them against the EVPs. I think that these two characters are just going to make magic together, and that's why the Outrunners are your next AEW World Tag Team Champions.
I agree. I think that's the inevitable path that they're on. I feel like let's just do it. Let's just do it. You know what? Let's liven it up. I can't. Osprey and Fletcher are okay, but are they? They're not young enough. I don't think.
No,
So.
they're not the youngest men alive.
Certainly not. Certainly not. A welcome breath of fresh. I keep hearing with MXM the phrase "there's such a breath of fresh air." I feel like that's true with the Outrunners too, especially in more sports-focused product most of the time with ROH. Like having something like this is very fun in my opinion. Is very fun in my opinion. Well, thankfully, speaking of young growing talent, we have KM in action with John Silver. John Silver actually looked really good here, winning with that helicopter drop, which looked awesome. He's so explosive with his offense. He's so crisp. And I feel like John Silver, because he has such a big personality, sometimes gets underrated as a worker. But, like, dude can go. Everything looks so sharp in his offense. And he's sneaky strong and sneaky quick with stuff. Like, I love when he and Reynolds tag together because I think their combination is really, really well-rounded as a tag team. But a little meat man here, I like it. I like seeing him in singles action. Don't know where any of this is going. Don't know what a win over KM gives you, but God bless. Again, never bad matches on ROH. Just wondering why they're happening. John Silver is not a men's contender for any belt. Like, what are we doing?
This worked in a vacuum. I like seeing John Silver in singles action. He's good. I like seeing him toss around a big guy. That's always fun. But it's when you take it out of the vacuum, this doesn't work because what's the point? Two,
Sure.
are the Dark Order both babyface and heel because I saw them in both roles on this show. So it's like John Silver was babyface here, and then later in the night they're heels helping the other heels, Cage of Agony, beat down the clearly babyface Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. So I was very confused by the end of the show. I was like, okay, it feels like I'm watching AEW in 2023 on Dynamite and Collision when Blackpool Combat Club were heels on one show and babyfaces on the other. So.
That is a very apt comparison. I love getting to see the Dark Order on my screen, though. I will say that. They were shelved for way too long. It would just be nice to see them have a consistent creative direction. Sound familiar? It's because we're saying it all damn episode. Matthew Hooks saying, meaningful stories, characters. Why watch ROH if I could see the same people on regular AEW television? Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Why am I paying $9.99 to see them if they're not going to be in stories when I can see the same talent getting reps on Collision? I guess because on ROH one of them has to win eventually, and they just are constantly losing on Collision for some reason. Which used to be...
That's so true.
They just keep gutting my favorite brands. Like, Collision was so for me because it was, like, so in-ring story focused, and now it's just, like, waving in the wind, it feels like. But I will say, there's no way that you signed the deal that you did and not have some clarity around the direction you're heading in, right? So we will see what's to come. But purchasing TV time is Mark Sterling and Josh Woods, who talk about Josh Woods' ridiculous tombstone suplex, and says Mark Sterling says he could hit that on anyone at any time, and I believe him. My personal attorney, Mark Sterling, buying TV time here. Ian Riccaboni questioning the legality of it. I would like to point out that Tony Khan bought TV time when they had their Impact, their TNA relationship. So pretty sure it's legal, Ian. Rare Ian Riccaboni L, I would say. Come on now. But that truly is such an impressive move. I don't usually love stories that are built around one move unless it's going to be... That's a case where squashes are warranted, right? Like, if you're going to do a story around that move, Josh Woods should be getting weekly wins for 7 weeks in a row or something with that move. Maybe not 7 weeks. But the point being, like, if you're trying to make it a Brock Lesnar F5 level of being lethal, like, you need to have him squashing people specifically with that move constantly. It is one of the most impressive things I've seen in a wrestling ring. Like, it is genuinely an incredible, incredible thing that not a lot of people do. So it feels specific to Josh Woods, and it feels like a leading piece of who they want the premier athletes to be. And I like the emphasis on Josh Woods that Mark Sterling is placing. Like, one thing I like about AEW managers is the direction that they're in as far as showcasing the talent they're managing and not becoming the story. And it feels like your Stokely Hathaways and your Mark Sterlings are really, really in that. Nana, of course, like doing a great job showcasing and helping move stories along without becoming too much at the center of them. But this was perfectly fine. I just want to see Josh Woods headed towards something like I want for a lot of other talent. My kingdom for a singles male competitor that feels like he's headed toward a title. That's it. Like, what did you think of our purchased TV time here?
Effective in getting some type of story for Josh Woods as far as his finisher, like you said, is so impressive. I agree with you. You got to give him some squash victories and maybe a victory over someone that, someone of some stature. Doesn't have to be anyone big. It could be someone like Angelico or something like that, but someone who has been picking up wins that we've seen on Ring of Honor television. I think that would be a good way to get it over, and then potentially move Woods into like the pure division, television title division, or world title division. Like, we need some of these singles acts to be after one of these titles and not just, hey, I'm challenging the champion for next week. Let's build to them picking up wins so they can get into title contention.
I agree. I agree with you. That is a fundamental part of having champions around, is having contenders for them. So that would be the... Josh Woods is someone that... Angelico's a great... Or Angelico. They changed the pronunciation, so I don't know. But he would be a great shout. Like, I could watch a best of 5, best of 7 between Angelico and Josh Woods. Like, give me that all day. But this is the problem when it doesn't feel like really anybody feels important. You can't make people if your champions aren't around, kind of thing. So a tough thing, but nothing and nobody and no one will ever be as tough as Nigel McGuinness. So hit us with number 3 on the list.
So number 3 for me, going back to 2008, we talked about 6th anniversary show. That was number 4. Number 3, rising above 2008 in Chicago, Bryan Danielson challenging Nigel McGuinness for the ROH World Championship. I really loved the build to this matchup with Nigel basically giving Bryan the goal of beating every person he beat on pay-per-view before he got another shot at the Ring of Honor World Championship after losing to him in February at the 6th anniversary. And then they face again for the championship in November after Bryan beat, all the people that Nigel beat on pay-per-view. And just the vibes of Chicago. Chicago Ridge was always one of the best places for a Ring of Honor event, and they were fully behind Bryan and the selling of Bryan because he had a bad knee going into the matchup. The inclusion of, Claudio Castagnoli and his rivalry with Bryan, him coming out to smash Bryan's head on the ramp and bust him open, and Bryan struggling to get to the ropes as he's in the half crab, busted open. And I loved how Bryan, when he had the longer hair, he would always flip up his hair to make everybody see, I'm bleeding, I'm struggling, I'm almost crying. I love the drama that was in that matchup. Like, I actually rewatched it because we had time between the end of the show and this show. I rewatched that matchup so I can put it in the right place. And I think number 3 is the right place for the matchup because it felt like a genuine Ring of Honor world title matchup on a big time show, on a pay-per-view. Nigel McGuinness, the consummate heel champion, versus Bryan Danielson, the ultimate underdog babyface. This is one of their best matches together, and it really delivered. And one of their last matches before their final match in 2009 as well.
I agree, and it's so funny as you were talking about the build and Nigel saying you have to beat everybody I beat to get to me. There's so many things in this rivalry that are great textbooks for present day ROH or any wrestling company. Like, there are certain things that this rivalry did that if you want to tell in-ring focused stories are just a perfect blueprint. And that piece of it is one of them. We've seen hints of things like that, but like just that idea of it being built on the pride of you have to beat everybody that I beat is an underutilized play, and it was executed maybe most perfectly in this rivalry because the work rate of both of these guys was so high. Is so high. So a good choice for number 3. A good number 3. For sure. Well, no Harley Cameron today. She did not visit Raw or say hi to Rhea. But we do have Rachael Ellering, who is here and defeats Maggie Lee with that Boss Woman Slam. And what I thought was a really fun match. I was glad they gave this time because I really like seeing Maggie Lee in action, and not because we're hair twins. She's a little bit more maybe natural of a redhead than me. But she's really skilled. She's a really skilled professional women's wrestler. I think we're really starting to see this new crop of women's talent that are like sign ready start to emerge. I feel like there was a time here where we saw a lot of them graduate up to getting signed, like Roxanne, Willow, like anybody who was in that ROH women's tournament. I like to see Jasmine Allure around when she's ready to be back around, but things like that. A lot of them signed and moved up and moved on, or even have moved on to things like NWA or whatever. We're now starting to see the next women up really start to rise to the top here. And I think Maggie Lee is on the forefront of that conversation. I really do, especially for the American scene. I think she's great. So I was glad that they gave this time. Not a surprising result. This is a match that didn't really have a ton around it that I think was still good just to keep Rachael Ellering looking strong. And I think it was still productive, even though Harley wasn't around and we don't really know what way it's going. Like Rachael Ellering picking up W's is probably a good thing just to keep stuff fresh. But really nice match, and I really like Maggie Lee a lot. I think there's a lot to see from her in the future, and I hope we get to see more from her. Hopefully on a television brand at some point. I think she's great. What did you think of this ladies match?
Yeah, in a limited look at Maggie Lee, I like what she offered in this matchup. She made a good foil for Rachael Ellering. And Rachael Ellering, you could see the confidence kind of growing in her, both as a character and just her in the ring, getting her feet under her in Ring of Honor and AEW. The Boss Woman Slam, she does it very, very well. Love it. Love them calling it the Boss Woman Slam, first of all, because that's a nice touch there. But yeah, this was good to kind of keep the rivalry going, because commentary did focus on the fact that, you know, she has the ongoing rivalry with Harley Cameron. And like I will say once again, I might sound like I'm complaining, but I will say once again, we got a lot more attention to the Rachael Ellering Harley Cameron feud, where if you watch this show, you wouldn't know that Abaddon is feuding with Athena right now. So
yeah, a lot of the editing was out of order from a lot of these tapings, but it feels like by now they should have been back on track. And yeah, there are people who get paid to make stuff make sense, and they should be doing that. And
I don't ask so much.
To your point, like, us not getting anything to do with Athena is so disappointing. It's so disappointing. It doesn't really matter, like, if you're a great women's wrestling brand, if you're not going to do anything with it. Like, Athena's never allowed to compete outside of ROH. She's had this historic title reign. They've done nothing with it, to the point where, like, it feels like the payoff is just getting delayed and delayed and delayed, and that needs to stop. So, very, very disappointing. Very, very disappointing on that front. But some of the best women's workers in the world, when they're cooking, they are absolutely cooking. But when they're not, it makes me concerned for the lack of care. But there was not a lack of beef on the show, and I know you're excited about that. So let's talk about this. Anthony Henry and Beef Rhodes as a tag team, while JD Drake is sidelined here in this vignette. Really dramatic stuff from Beef in this, I felt. Cousin! You love him so much, SP3.
Oh my god, this was the best video package I've seen all week. Yes, even better than the Nigel and Brian video package. Because, Kate, did you notice that they used the same theme song from the Beef It's What's for Dinner commercials?
I thought it was that.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
brilliant.
They did. Yes, they did. That was brilliant. Brilliant stuff. When I heard the song, I was like, where have I heard this before? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, Beef It's What's for Dinner. This was
phenomenal.
Awesome.
I thought that's what it was.
I need the t-shirt that says, I can't chill, I'm Beef.
I can't chill, I'm Beef. Now that's concerning because you don't want your beef to get spoiled. You know what I mean? You got to be able to freeze it.
That's true.
But
He can't chill. He's
he
too
can't
sweaty.
chill.
He's too wet.
He's
Too wet.
beef in action right now. So Meet Normus gets to. We just love that for him. He's Meet Normus, so a wrestler named Beef. Break out all the beef emojis. We love that for you. Guys, get in those super chats as we continue down this episode of ROH. If you don't know what to chat about, I get it. This was not a very strong episode, but we'll talk about it all with you. We will talk about AEW. We will talk about number 2 on SP3's list.
So number 2, I go to 2007 and Driven, which is very confusing because how they taped those old Ring of Honor pay-per-views. This wasn't technically on Driven. It was really on the Domination show, but it was on pay-per-view on the Driven show. And this was in Philadelphia, number 1 contenders match between Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness. It was their first one-on-one matchup after Bryan, took some time off after the end of his Ring of Honor World Championship run in 2006. They met in 2007 in June in Philadelphia. Philadelphia, another one of the great Ring of Honor crowds. And oh my God, when you talk about like old school Ring of Honor fans talking to like newer fans, they talk about this matchup because of the headbutt spot. The headbutt spot of them just clonking, and you if you want to be like, hey, Nigel, he retired because of concussions. I always say, just watch that match and you'll see why he had concussions that caught up to him. It starts here when they're just clunking, or it starts in another match that I might mention at number 1. But those clunking spot of them just ramming each other's head is not for everybody. But the intensity, the storytelling, the emotion, and then the crowd heat just getting amped up as they're showing their fighting spirit, as they're busted open, clunking heads against one another. It's just high key drama on an independent scene that you will never forget. This is one of the matches that really put Ring of Honor on the map in 2007, especially during their pay-per-view run, their first time running regular pay-per-views. This is on the second pay-per-view for them. I was at the first one. Yes, I did have another humble brag. I was at the first one. Respect is earned in 2007, but this was the next one, Driven, and it was excellent. Go out of your way to watch that one.
It is an appropriate number 2. It is an appropriate number 2 for sure. So it's nice to have the list back, SP3. You missed it. I missed it.
Thank you, Ring of Honor, for the hour and change show.
I know we had some breathing room for it today, but guys, keep those chats coming. We do have the TNA post show on the back end for you. Hang around and help Joel Pearl out. Streaming solo is always a little bit of a weird one, so hang out with him. Lots to talk about in TNA. That Mike Santana JDC deathmatch, I'm sure, is going to be something to chit-chat about. So stick around for that. But for now, we're going to talk about the Infantry with Trish Adora defeating SAP with the boot camp. Such a cool finisher. Such a cool stable. No idea why the hell we don't see Trish Adora in singles action more. No idea why the Infantry aren't the tag team champions of this brand. Like, I don't understand where this is going if you're just going to plateau. I don't understand on an episode like this why Trish Adora doesn't have at least a match here. I would simply choose to make $1 million with her if I had Trish Adora on my roster, but a good match. It's always, they're always great. Like, they always do a great job in stuff like this. This does at least have a little bit of story behind it here, but I don't feel like there was much on this show that had a lack of predictability. And to your point, this was one where like both of these teams are being kind of presented equally, so this one could go either way, which was a refreshing thing to see. Kind of figured the Infantry would win here, but what for? To what end? Are they leading toward tag contendership? We have new champions. The one good thing about that is we have a new slate of challengers for those. What did you think of this match? And do you think the Infantry might get set up for a challenge at some point here? I hope so.
I like this matchup because, like I said, I like any matchup where I can't automatically be like, okay, this team is winning 100%. I didn't have that 100% feeling with them going against SAP. It was fine, good work from both teams, liked Infantry getting the victory. But the big nitpick that I have here is that why didn't the Iron Savages come out to attack the Infantry? The Infantry stuck their nose in their business when they attacked the Outrunners last week. Why don't you have the Iron Savages come out and attack Infantry this week to continue that story? But no, Infantry won. So I was like, I guess we're not telling a story there. We got highlights of what happened last week, but that would have been the most logical follow-up is Iron Savages come out to get some revenge on the Infantry.
I actually know why, and it's because of the severe lack of glam. Like, they had their glitz, but they were like, if I'm going to go down to the ring, I need my glam. And they didn't have enough glam. So it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to go out there without your glam. It's happened to me on podcasts, I'm ashamed to admit. Like, sometimes you just don't have the glam that night, and you can't be doing, like, a post-match attack in that case. So it's a tough one. But, hey, Anthony Ogogo needs to stop hurting people with his knockout pop-up jab here. I was trying to find a way to make that work. It didn't. There was never going to be a way that wasn't going to be a Fozzie Bear situation, but I was desperate to get it in there. Joel's backstage. You're going to see him in a minute, but he's so ashamed of me, which means mission accomplished. Anytime I can disappoint Joel Pearl is a good day for me, but I'm glad to see him back. It feels like commentary went really hard on being like, man, Shane Taylor Promotions is really coming together now. You have a pure title holder. You have Ogogo knocking people out. You have Shane Taylor angling for an indiscriminate belt. Like, he's going to be going after some belts at some point. My other thing with that is, like, that momentum felt like it was hot 3 weeks ago, and now it feels like it hasn't been. But this is still good. Like, this should be a home for people like Ogogo to continue to discover themselves and find their identity in a lot of ways. We're seeing longer matches from him. Congratulations to him. He's back from paternity, I think, as well. So, I want to see a faction feel important in ROH because everybody else kind of splits time between being a trio and a tag team. A force like Shane Taylor Promotions is something that SP3 I feel like is desperately needed on this product.
Yeah, especially Shane Taylor, who has so much history with the ROH brand. And I want to say, also congratulations to Anthony Ogogo coming off of paternity leave, bringing a new life into the world. And he looked another, solid performance from him. The pop-up jab it just looks fierce because he's a former boxer. So, he could really knock someone the hell out like he does. So, good stuff here. I just want to see more direction for Shane Taylor Promotions. I want Shane to kind of specify what title he wants, and then maybe Ogogo can go after the other title that Shane's not going after. And maybe we could get some direction for everyone in Shane Taylor Promotions.
I agree. Some consistent storytelling would be nice there. We do see Shane Taylor in a promo after kind of emphasizing what I just said, a little bit of an exclamation point on saying that we are not to be messed with. And he's got his eyes set on a title. But, hey, and something else that also doesn't matter. Brian Cage defeats Dion Russman with the inverted clover relief. Pick a lane. Are you a singles competitor? Are you a trios competitor? Will you cloverleaf people on a plane? Will you do so on a train? Like, what is the Dr. Seuss-ness behind the Cage of Agony booking? I don't know. Help me make sense of it, SP3. This is, again... How many times have we said it tonight? Perfectly suitable match. Where is this going?
Brian Cage with that inverted cloverleaf, man, that looked violent. It looked even better than, and I like the prism lock by Rhea Ripley, but stomping on someone's head while doing it, even better. Even better, especially.
That.
Yeah, she should definitely steal that. She should definitely steal that. But yeah, Shane Taylor, he got a win on one of the first residency shows against Rocky Romero, where we both were like, hey, put Shane Taylor in the TV title lane. Put Shane Taylor after Mark Briscoe in the Ring of Honor World Championship. Here we are 2 months later. None of that happened. So I don't read anything into him beating Dion Russman. I like Dion Russman. He looks good. He's got a good look. He's a bigger guy, but do I think anything's going to come out of this? Not really. No.
No, it's hard to It's hard to believe anybody's headed for contendership too, because then they just hotshot someone from the main roster down. So it's like hard to, even when they start to build people, hard to believe it's going to go anywhere. But before we head into our main event, Meet Norma saying, believe it or not, I spend more on veggies than ROH, and I'm starting to like veggies more. Well, I'm a vegan, so that makes me happy. But not a surprise, ROH wasn't a part of the TV deal. Delegate Tony Khan. Yeah, I think I'm going to wait and see. I haven't seen any of the details about the TV deal. But maybe that's something Fox would want to put on their streaming service if they do a thing with Shockwave. Who knows? Who knows what things will look like after the TV rights settle? But yeah, this is a very directionless product. Unfortunately, again, it seems like the only time we get consistency is when they are parked for tapings. But finally, on to our main event. Last call for super chats for our side of the show. You got Joel Pearl on the back end of this talking some TNA, so stick around and support him. Leave a thumbs up on this video, too. It definitely helps us on this particular show. And hey, if you haven't touched tips already, please do. Please touch tips, because that's what we do on ROH, okay? And we are talking tag team wrestling. We got a Proving Ground match with Dustin, Rhodes, and Sammy Guevara versus the Dark Order. And man, I was excited because I thought the Dark Order might, I don't know, prove their ground, because if they weren't going to, why wouldn't this just be a title defense? But no. Dustin, Rhodes, and Sammy defeat the Dark Order via pinfall with that swan dive onto Reynolds. Man, this just should have been a title defense. Making the Dark Order feel like they're up-and-coming talent when they've been here since the company started is stupid. But after you have Cage of Agony, even though we just saw Brian Cage in a singles match, attack Dustin Rhodes from behind, and he and the Dark Order lay them out. Dark Order and Cage of Agony standing tall for reasons. Help me make sense of that before we bring Joel on here. It makes no sense to me.
How it makes sense to me is that Tony Khan watches our ROH post show here, because we've been saying with that first time when they had Cage of Agony, Dark Order, and Undisputed Kingdom jump the baby faces, and then they stood tall at the end of the show. We was like, it was the exception to the rules. Well, Tony Khan was like, I'm gonna do it twice. I'm gonna do the same angle again, and y'all gonna be like, hey, the baby faces didn't come out to make the save. See, I'm doing different stuff, guys. No, you're just doing the same thing again, just with less people. So it's not really a different angle. You just did the same thing again with lesser people. Congratulations, because I was surprised the heel stood tall to end the show. But other than that, no. And I agree with you. This probably should have been a championship match. There's already an established rivalry with Dark Order and Sammy and Dustin. Just do a title match. Let Sammy and Dustin get one. There was absolutely no hype for Dustin Rhodes and Sammy versus Undisputed Kingdom on Collision, even though that match got made before this was taped. So you could have had... It's like, what are we even doing? What are we doing?
This is a mess. It's an editing mess, which is really sad, because that's something that you could simply just care about. But I also don't like it when heels are just friends because they're heels. Yeah, it does not make sense for Cage of Agony and Dark Order to work together at all. But I will, before we send Joel on, give y'all my number one. Let's bring him out while you give him the number one. Let's rock and roll. Oh, okay. Well, why not? Why not? There you go.
We're number one. Who's number one? Who's number one? Let's hear it.
Well, have you heard my... We don't know, because ROH has senseless booking, so we can't really tell you who's number one. The champions aren't around. There's no contenderships. I wish I could tell you who number one was, Joel, but...
It's us.
Oh, us! Yeah, no, we're great. We're really, really great. So
yeah.
But who's number one? What is the number one match between Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness on SP3's list?
I think this is an obvious one for most people. If you know the history... This is the obvious number one. It is Unified from 2006. Nigel McGuinness challenging Bryan Danielson for the Ring of Honor World Championship in his home country of the UK at Unified. And oh my God, just the crowd heat. Nigel with the UK crowd behind him, bloody matchup, him getting headbutted into the ring post, the hammer and elbows where Nigel looks like he's dying, like, she's getting elbowed to death. It's just great stuff. It's just high key drama. That's on YouTube. I saw it the other day on YouTube. So you don't even have to spend the $10 on the highest rated or most expensive streaming service out there of Honor Club. You can just pop on your YouTube and watch that. That unified matchup is an instant classic. To me, it's the only 5-star perfect Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson matches. I rate all their other matches that I mentioned very highly, but the only one I gave 5 stars to is Unified, because that's the perfect Nigel and Bryan matchup. Physicality, intensity at the high peak. That is peak cinema, as they say. The cool kids say.
Well,
Was there cinema on Ring of Honor tonight? I wasn't watching.
not even a little.
Not even a little.
Nope.
Don't mind me while I do this right now. Okay,
Don't mind you
you're
while you do
fine.
what?
Keep talking. You're good.
Okay.
That's why I had to come up with a list, Joe, because there wasn't much for me to talk about on this show.
Joel, are you going to be yourself and Cresta today?
No, I have an actual overlay that I'll be using tonight.
That's almost upsetting, honestly. It would be
I
very
know,
funny
right?
if it was,
There.
but- How was TNA tonight?
You know what? It was actually pretty good. They're coming out of Victory Road. I have my thoughts about that. We didn't do a post show because Cresta has stepped back for a little bit. So I was operating on a 20+ hour day and I was like, we're done. And the people who contacted me about doing a post show, I just said, you'll be okay without my thoughts, but I'll give them tonight. So they kind of cleaned up a few things coming out of Victory Road and they're looking forward to Bound for Glory. So you're hoping that you're going to get the best television of the year, really, for TNA, because Bound for Glory is their biggest event of the year. And they're starting to get you thinking about what's happening. And there's some stuff to look forward to. And there's some stuff that I'm cautiously optimistic about.
Well, where one brand makes a complete mess of everything that they were working on, another brand starts to climb out of there. So we will pass it off to Joel.
There's still a
here.
chance.
So
I mean,
saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
Before you guys go, SB3, nice t-shirt.
Oh, thank you.
Is that
Thank
your
you.
Bryan Danielson shirt?
No. This I do have.
Can't be that.
I do. I can't have a Bryan Danielson shirt. I got to wear regular plain shirts. That's the best thing that I can do whenever I'm talking to anybody now. I will say
is for professional.
Of course. TNA Victory Road, that Speedball and Zachary Wentz was one of the best TNA matches I've seen all year. That was tremendous. I even had to comment under Speedball's post when he was talking about it with Zach on Twitter. I was like, dude, that was like old school X Division at its finest. You two guys cooked.
And it's very funny because Speedball puts it over on tonight's show. And sometimes you're like, that's kind of hokey when a wrestler does that and says this is the best match ever in the X Division, blah, blah. But no, this was one time where you're looking at it and you're like, oh, no, it absolutely was. He's right.
I love that.
Yeah. Go check that out if you haven't yet. Watch that X Division title match from Victory Road.
Maybe I just will, Joel.
Good.
Think about that.
Good.
Maybe
You can borrow my
I
TNA
will.
Plus login. Can't watch the show on 2x speed, but you can sure as shit watch it on 0.5.
I'll send you a PowerPoint about my thoughts on that, but we're going to get out of here
There
for
you
now. I appreciate Joel sticking with us, even though he's co-host list. You guys stick around and support Joel for the time being if you can. He's got a lot to update you on, it sounds like. So some good stuff happening in TNA world. SB3 and I are going to get out of here, but we'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, y'all. Later.
Get them out of here. Let's get these people gone. Yeah. Hey, it's just me. Hey, it did work. Okay, cool. My frame doesn't actually look so bad. I kind of piecemealed it together.
I've ruined it all, Mom.
I mean, you can stick around if you want. No. Hey, remember when we used to do a show, you and I? I was thinking about this the other day. We used to do a show on Sunday nights on some channel. I don't remember what it was. We had longer than 2-minute interactions on camera. I don't know what.
I don't know her.
Must be a fever dream. I can't remember either.
All right, I'm out of here. Have fun.
Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. I'm hoping that you'll bear with me. It's going to be me, myself, and I for the next few weeks. Like I said, Cresta Star taking a few weeks off. She did mention that last week on our post show, but we're going to make the most out of it. So I'm here. The chat's here. How about we get right to it, shall we? And I've been up since 5:30 in the morning, so I'm ready to go. And a 1 and a 2. Hello, friends. We're back again. It's Fightful.com. I'm Rachael Ellering, and it's time for your TNA Impact post show. It's September 19th, 2024. Plenty to talk about coming out of TNA Victory Road this past Friday. We did not have a post show. There was a lot going on that kind of kept us from doing that, but the show was a lot of fun. We'll kind of sprinkle in some thoughts on the way, but while you're at it, you can sprinkle in your thumbs up on the video. And of course, if you're listening in audio, give us a 5-star review. Why do you do that? Because it gets your ears closer to other friends' ears talking about wrestling, thinking about wrestling, maybe in ways that you think more people should hear about it. So go ahead, drop us a 5-star review in the audio realm. And here, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us at youtube.com/Fightful. And you can find me if you want more of me. I don't know why you would, but sometimes you will, over on youtube.com/Fightful youtube.com/Fightful Overbooked. That's where I am. FightfulOverbooked.com takes you directly there. Myself and Jeremy Lambert, we host our morning show In the Weeds every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We usually go about 2 hours. Timecock, Max Cocker, will be joining us in the morning. Who is that? Watch Wednesday's show and you'll get all the details. So Max Cocker is going to be live with us on Friday morning. So go check that out. We got TNA Impact to talk about. We got Victory Road thoughts to give. During the crossover, SP3 lamented how fantastic the X Division Championship match was, because the X Division Championship was not featured tonight, and really Speedball had a backstage promo with Gia Miller. I will tell you right now, if you're going to go out of your way to watch one match from Victory Road, the X Division Championship match, probably the one you want to watch. Very fantastic matches that always culminate with Speedball somehow. But Speedball and Zachary Wentz put on a great show, great match. I have my feelings about X Division Championships changing hands so quickly, especially in the way that they did it. I know other people have kind of said that they're okay with it and they understand it, but I will say this. Mustafa Ali held that title for so long and brought prestige to the X Division. That was his whole gimmick. And then you had, in Montreal, Speedball at home, win the title, beat Mustafa Ali, give him his first loss, and effectively run him out of the company. I know he did do the match with Nick Nemeth for the TNA World title, but he effectively ended the Mustafa Ali character in TNA. And then they did Ultimate X at Emergence. And Zachary Wentz won. Wentz is obviously involved with the NXT crossover stuff. Him and Wes Lee are currently in a feud. Trey Miguel's been a part of it as well. I wasn't the biggest fan of Wentz getting the X Division Championship for 1 month, just to have Speedball recapture it later on at Victory Road. I understood the reasoning why. If you're going to have the X Division Championship mean so much when it's won by the person that takes it off the hot heel who had it for so long in Mustafa Ali, I think Speedball should have had it for longer. I understand, again, Wentz winning it meant more for the crossover appeal to bring the X Division Championship to WWE television and to just have it front and center. It made sense. And now they get it back to Speedball because Wentz is going on to have a match against Wesley at the CW premiere. It's going to be on NXT. It's going to be a street fight, and it's fine. Clearly, it just kind of, for those who watch TNA, it just means that Wesley is going to win the street fight because Wentz is no longer the champion. But again, it made the X Division feel special. It made the X Division title feel special in the eyes of certain people. It got eyes on the X Division in certain ways because he had the title. They mentioned it. But now we're back to Speedball being the title holder. So it was a bit of a dovetail. I didn't love it, but I got it. There was a reason for it. It just wasn't the first reason I would jump to. Felt a little bit in service to WWE. So I wanted to get that out of the way as we're kind of talking through bits of Victory Road, and we're talking about TNA Impact from tonight. Of course, if you want to get yourself in on the conversation, you can go ahead, drop a super chat, any amount, get your question or statement read on the air, or you can also go to humperchats.com. As I go to bring that up, normally I would ask Cresta to give me a minute so that I could actually bring up the Humper Chats, but of course I forget. There we go. I forgot how to update that, but now I got it and we're good. So if you go over to humperchats.com, any amount will help us further. You can donate there. I got to log in because I had to restart my computer today because it was one of those days. Again, this is what happens sometimes. But yeah, go over to Humper Chats, donate a super chat, help us out. Where, as Sean Ross Sapp would say, we're poor. Does that help? Does that make you feel like you want to? Just want to give your thoughts? You can also just give me thoughts. I like your thoughts. I'm watching the chat. I'm watching you all. I'm kind of killing time while I'm bringing up the Humper chats so that I can actually talk about them when they come up. Hey, dead air? We're happy? Yeah, happy? Good. Let's go. All right, we're back. Impact opened up tonight with Lisha Edwards coming out and blaming Masha Slamovich for losing the Knockouts tag titles at Victory Road. Spitfire were the beneficiaries of the tag titles. Tasha Steelz ended up replacing Lish, who is under concussion protocol, as she's finally said openly. She was wearing the neck brace, but now she's admitted she's under concussion protocol because of what happened in Emergence, where in real life, she had an incident that carried her out of a 6-woman tag. So with Lish out, Tasha Steelz came in and replaced her at the event. Spitfire, the deal was if Spitfire lost, they would break up. Instead, they won the match at Victory Road. They are the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. General thoughts was, match was fine. Tasha being jumped in at the last second is good for Tasha. Storytelling-wise, felt a little weird. Again, I said it in the crossover. There's some cleanup going on. I can appreciate that. So, Lish Edwards comes out, says Masha Slamovich, you lost the titles, but it's fine. You know, you're an idiot. But out comes Masha Slamovich. They've got a new presentation for her. They're doing the 2016 Nia Jax entrance, where you see the close-up on the face and they pull out. It works the first time. I will say this, if you're TNA and you're doing post-production, I don't think you need to do it every time. There is benefit to doing it every time. I get it. It's repetitiveness kind of breeds that expectation. But I don't know if you need to do it every time. Or maybe you just figure out how to make it look less staged. I don't know. But either way, I like the new presentation. Masha finally speaks English. Why is this important to me? I did an interview with Masha Slamovich after she won the GCW World Championship. This was probably a year and a half ago. And I asked her about it. And I said, TNA is the only place where you are a character, full-time, full stop, no English. You only speak Russian. And I asked, when is that going to change? And she said, when the time is right. Well, apparently the time was tonight. She starts speaking English. She essentially, Lish Edwards says, you're not going to do anything. You never understood me. You never understood anyone. You don't speak English. And then she says something in Russian. And then she says, I do speak English. And I'm going to kick your ass. And I like it. I've been waiting for this from Masha. I've been waiting for the babyface turn. There's a lot of story to tell. And now they're going to tell it. And I like it. Tasha Steelz comes out. Jordynne Grace makes the save from the whole melee. System comes out. Hardys come out. Santino comes out because, of course, that's how you got to do this whole 20-minute melee opening segment. He makes a 6-person tag for tonight. It's going to be Masha Slamovich and the Hardys teaming up to take on Myers, Edwards, and Steelz for the system. And then Ariana Grace comes out. You're like, what are you doing? And Santino is like over the moon giddy. And this is the fun part that he gets to play, you know, super happy daddy, super excited daddy. It's really fun stuff. I do hope that they eventually kind of make the connection, or at least say it outright. Because right now they're kind of hoping that you know. They're hoping that you understand that this is a father-daughter thing. But they haven't really said it. They just kind of make you, if you know, you know. So she comes out. She's the liaison between NXT and TNA. And she says that for Jordynne Grace, who's also in the ring, she's going to team with her best friend. And that's Ariana Grace. It's a new thing. Everyone is her best friend. And it's going to be Jordynne and her best friend versus Wendy Chu and Rosemary next week. Okay, why not? Later on backstage, Jordynne catches up with Masha Slamovich, says she wanted her to answer one of her open challenges because Jordynne kept doing them. And she said eventually Masha was going to answer one, right? Well, she didn't, but now she hopes that that'll change and she'll do it soon. And Masha says, we'll see each other soon. I think Masha's up next. I think we finally found that person who is going to take the title from Jordynne Grace, who's going to be passed on. And this is kind of an incoming conundrum when it comes to TNA. You have some hot baby faces in your company who might be going up against other hot baby faces and trying to tell those stories of passing the torch in title matches. We'll get to that in a little bit. It feels like Masha's up next, but I feel like you also wanted to tell a story where someone else wins the title and then Masha wins it. It's a very tough hill to climb when you're doing the babyface passes the torch and you're doing it in potentially multiple stories. They might get it right, but for right now, Masha, who has been a thorn in everyone's side for so long, is suddenly going to have to repent for a lot of her sins and get on a lot of people's good sides. en route to becoming a potential champion. But I could see Jordan and Masha having a great match one more time. And maybe this is it. Maybe Jordan finally drops that Knockouts World Championship to Masha Slamovich after multiple attempts from Masha in the past. This could be it, and I wouldn't hate it. But again, they got to do it right. And they're starting to tell the story. Masha says, you know, I met the Hardys when I was a young girl, shows the photo on her phone. And then Matt Hardy mentions this. I love, by the way, the connection he makes. He says this is no different from when we got to work with Michael P.S. Hayes when we started in WWE. I love that they went there. It really is part of the wrestling lore, is that sometimes you don't want to meet your heroes, but sometimes your heroes are the ones you finally get to work with. And you're so excited. And when it's a good experience, like it was with the Hardys, allegedly, and like it has been with Masha tonight, at least in the ring and on camera, it's a good thing. So I was really happy with the way that segment played out, and I'm sure they were too. Meanwhile, you had it, Josh Alexander pacing around in the backstage, and Eric Young kind of walks up and says, "Hey, I've been here before." It's another tale of two guys who are very similar but very different. They see the business very similarly, says Eric Young to Josh Alexander. Talk about respect, learning from mistakes, things that have made both men very battle-hardened over the years. And then he says, "You're heading to a place, Josh Alexander, that is harder to come back from than you think." In other words, the descent into madness that Josh is currently doing, where he's looking for respect because he doesn't feel like he's been respected, EY's been there. That's exactly what Violent by Design was. Violent by Design was Eric Young just saying, nobody ever respected me, so I'm going to find a monster to show you that I deserve your respect. And now Josh Alexander, I don't think he's going to create a Violent by Design, but he's certainly not alone in his feelings. He's certainly going to want to prove that he deserves the respect from others. He reminds Josh Alexander that he's a leader and that he's just got to take things seriously and think about it. Again, this is good stuff. I like that they're starting to put EY and Josh on the same page. EY and Macklin teaming up at Victory Road was a lot of fun. Very happy with that match. Very excited to see where that goes. I'm curious about Macklin. I'm curious about Macklin because he's been a guy who has been consistent, and Cresta and I have talked about this so often that what are you doing with Macklin right now? They just did a storyline of respect, or at least that ended with respect, with Mike Santana. It feels like Macklin he's not rudderless, because I really do think that there is a story of a bit of redemption through respect for Macklin, but something's going on there. I don't think he's a babyface. I don't think I want Macklin to be a babyface. I think he's much more effective being that guy you just hate. Also, this is very funny because I know you meant Diener, but Nora saying dinner would always be ready for another Violent by Design. I'm ready for dinner now. I'm also ready for a nap, but that's not important. Regardless, with the Macklin stuff, again, the match at Victory Road was so much fun. Go check out the tag team match that EY and Macklin had. They all tore it up. So check that out. Leave it at that. I'm curious about Macklin and what happens next with him, because clearly EY and Josh Alexander have some stuff going on, and I'm sure it'll play out later on in the next couple of weeks. But let's move on. First Class defeats Sinner and Saint. Feels like that's something else that we're going to be coming back to in a second when we talk about EY and Josh Alexander. Check out our interview with Sinner and Saint when they signed with TNA. It's over on Overbooked. Myself and Jeremy Lambert, we did that interview live right after they were announced as signed to TNA. We had a lot of fun talking to them. I was told that there was ideas on the table for Sinner and Saint, and there were, they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and it was a slow and steady rollout. The first time they saw them perform live at TV, people were excited, and rightfully so, because they are an excellent team, and they're the type of guys who are young, hungry, and understanding that great matches are one thing. Great presentation of a character is what you need to do to be on TV. When you're solo, you got to drink something once in a while. Anyway, more tags between Francis and Navarro in this match, which I liked, because for a while it felt more like AJ Francis was leaving all the work to Casey Navarro. It feels like now they're working more as a tag team, more fluid. I like that stuff. Finish of the match, down payment into the big splash from KC, gets the win for First Class. They are certainly on the way to going after tag titles as well. And I like that. Again, building up more tag teams in the tag team division that has been a little sparse lately. I like that they're adding First Class. I like that Sinner and Sink get a bit of a nod here, and who knows, they could be further on. The Hardys are clearly after those tag titles. The System have those tag titles. Ace of Base are always around because they just dropped those tag titles. There's a lot in the tag division that's starting to build up. I like that. Later that night, because we talked about EY and Josh Alexander, well, Josh Alexander approaches Sinner and Saint and offers his help and his advice. And I think they might just do that. I think they might just get involved. We mentioned the Speedball with Gia Miller segment. He's happy to recapture his X Division championship, call his match of Victory Road versus Zachary Wentz one of the best in TNA history. You'd be hard pressed to deny that, because it was very good. Again, I put it over. Go check it out if you haven't yet. And then Speedball finds out that it's going to be him in a team with Kushida and Leon Slater, who had a great match at the countdown to Victory Road. I expected Leon Slater to beat Kushida. Turns out it was the other way around. Kushida gets a victory. That happens sometimes, I guess. It's good for him. They're going to take on Zachary Wentz and Ace of Base. A little unexpected, but Zachary Wentz and Ace of Base have a bit of a background. If you didn't know already, the Rascals and Ace of Base basically spent a solid year going after each other in the tag titles. So for Zachary Wentz to team up with them, it makes sense. And for Leon Slater to team up with Kushida after their match, cool. Speedball's there too. I do wonder if this all plays into Speedball's Bound for Glory defense. And who does he get? And what is it? A multi-person match? Is it a gimmick match? I don't want it to be Ultimate X. We just did that. I don't know who gets the Speedball match for Bound for Glory for the X Division Championship. I wouldn't hate if it's one of the guys in Ace of Base. I wouldn't hate if it was either Ace Austin or Chris Bay, and it's just an excellent match. I don't know if I want to go back to Wentz and Speedball right away, but who knows? Steph DeLander, by the way, for those who missed it at Victory Road, she comes out for the tag team match. It's her and Cardona versus PCO and Rhino. She's wearing the Matt Cardona t-shirt, and she takes the mic and she says, I have to be honest with you all. I need neck surgery. I'm watching this live and I'm thinking to myself, is this real? Is this part of a storyline? It turns out it's real, and Steph did confirm it multiple times. It was unexpected. It was something that kind of took me off guard. I know that there was word that she has signed with TNA through the rest of the year. It's paid per appearance, so I don't think that there's much, hurting there. But it does put a kink into the plan for PCO and for Matt Cardona and Steph DeLander, which it feels like this whole story has been snake bitten from the get-go. If you remember, Cardona was injured as they started this whole thing with Steph DeLander at Rebellion. That's how long this has been going on, since April, and they had to prolong it. And then Cardona came back, and Cardona's fine, but Steph DeLander, as part of the story, has now got to step away herself. And I hope that everything's okay. She heals up, and things I'm sure will have moved on, because the problem is between Matt Cardona and PCO. They'll have to sort their situation out. And it feels like they will, because both men have said in digital exclusives that, they're going to beat the shit out of each other. And guess what? They've already started, and that's good. But it was Steph. Steph was in the middle of this, and now Steph is married to PCO on the show, and Matt Cardona doesn't have a friend, at least not yet. I'm interested as to how they tell the story, with one of the main focuses and main squeeze in PCO's case being out of the picture. Is Rhino going to be the main squeeze for PCO? Is that what we're doing? Who knows? It's going to be very, very strange. Well, Cardona's got a match against Rhino. Not much to say here. Rhino gets a chair from under the ring, tosses it in. So what does Cardona do? He uses it, and he gets disqualified at the same time. And then Cardona hits a sack rider. Sorry, radio silence is what he calls it. PCO then stops Cardona from beating up Rhino further, because, again, he's got a new wife. It's Rhino. Sure. So he comes in, he stops Rhino from getting beat up more. Cardona escapes the PCO assault, and PCO just does it on the chair instead, because PCO is suicidal. Sorry, just to say. I'm ready for this to move forward. I'm ready for this story to end. Again, it's been kind of on and off the table since April, and now they've been struck with an extra kind of situation. Cardona and PCO at Bound for Glory. Do that. It'll be, there's someone saying in the chat, Monsters Ball match. fine by me. This is the 20th anniversary of Bound for Glory coming up. You got to hit on some of those TNA legendary matches, and Monsters Ball is one of those, or the Lethal Lockdown, something. They're going to do something just to finish off that PCO Matt Cardona stuff, and I'm sure that the Digital Media Championship will be involved, and so will the International Heavyweight Championship out of Canada that PCO is currently holding. I'm sure that'll all come into play, and that'll be that, but I'm ready for it to move forward. I'm ready for us to get by. I'm sure they'll do a PCO Rhino versus Cardona and blank match again. Maybe Cardona gets a friend. But meanwhile, you want to talk about friends, Ariana Grace has more best friends. Carlie Bright and Kendall Gray from NXT come out. They're going to challenge for the Knockouts tag titles against Spitfire, the new champions. Everyone is Ariana's best friend. Did you know that? She's telling you. Everyone's her best friend. I get it. I would be too. Ariana Grace seems like a lovely human being. I would love to be her best friend too. Ariana, if you're listening, let's chat. My best friendship, trading for yours. It didn't sound as good as it came in my head. Anyway, both women are good. Carlie Bright and Kendall Gray I'm talking about. Spitfire is great. We talked about them. I really want to focus on the NXT side of things. A lot of NXT women are going to be part of this TNA crossover for the next couple of weeks, including this week and next week. I'm a big fan of having these younger, newer NXT talent come over. The ones who aren't getting many reps on TV are now getting it in a taped environment on a show that don't really have many women's tag teams. They don't have a lot of Knockouts tag teams. Cresta and I have talked about this multiple times. And now to take the bottleneck that is the NXT women's division, partner up some people, partner up some of the women, and pass them over to TNA to work a few matches. Maybe they'll win a couple. Obviously, this was for the tag title, so they weren't going to win, but they were going to get that exposure. And that's the good start that I've been expecting out of this whole partnership, and that I've been seeing as well. So for them, Carlie Gray and Kendall Bright, to come out and have a match like this is good. Again, that bottleneck starts to get broken up. And then with TNA, you have a few teams cross over. I would absolutely love to see Jody Threat do something on NXT programming. Dani Luna as well. Dani's a special situation because she's in the UK most of the time, so they'd have to it's a scheduling thing for Dani. I would love to see Dani too, but I know that in case of Jody, she's here in Toronto where I live. So for her to come over to Orlando, it's a much different expectation than having Dani Luna come all the way in. I think Jody Threat getting a shot, and she's had tryouts with WWE before the pandemic. That's out there. I'd love to see Jody get that opportunity. We'll see where that goes. But for now, to bring in some of NXT's newest and brightest, and these are people that NXT want to get out there. They want them to understand what working in a different environment is like, and this is a great opportunity for them. Someone saying have Fatal Influence go to TNA. I would hate that. Until they change the entrance that they do, the milady, the I'm a rock star, the jazz, come here. No, not too far. Don't do that. Anyway, I don't do the NXT post show. That's on the others. That's Sourcrafts. Let them do that. But either way, Pressure Drop wins it for Spitfire. They retain their tag titles. Gray and Bright look good. Again, this is a rep for them. This is something that gets them out of the NXT experience, of the WWE bubble. And yeah, listen, it introduces them to a different audience, but I think it's really less about that. It's just working a different style, a different crowd, but a similar setup when it comes to TV. Speaking of different people, Ash by Elegance. Can I tell you how much I appreciate her gimmick now? Now that Ash by Elegance is out of the main event, the Knockouts main event, I'm okay with it. I like it. I'm a fan of it. They're elegant people doing elegant things, says Iceman. I love that. Heather Reckless pops up behind them. They didn't notice, and they're still a little bit like, what are you doing here? And Reckless says, I want in. I want the remake. I want the remodel. Come and do me up. Get me nice and get me ready. Make me look good. Make me shine. And they're like, I don't know. And then Reckless says, well, how about this? I've got Zaya Brookside next week. And Ash by Elegance says, well, I beat her. I beat her a bunch of times. And she says, well, yeah, that's why I want you to come and watch me have a match. And, then they kind of blow her off. They say, that's nice. Maybe we're busy people trying on cowboy hats with spotted milk and all that stuff. I like where this is going, especially because to me, this is turning into Heather Reckless and Ash by Elegance winning the tag titles. They're going to win the Knockouts tag titles. I'm telling you now. It was Masha Alicia. Now it's Spitfire. Next, it's going to be Ash and Reckless. And then it's going to be Havoc and Rosemary. Because the whole storyline, to me, I'm hoping Havoc is about to return to the ring, or at least has. Seems like there's a healthy thing going on, which is good. I hope she's healthy. If Havoc's coming back, her and Rosemary, especially Havoc, needs to get revenge on Ash by Elegance because she's the one who took out Havoc. So have them win the Knockouts tag titles. Have that go on. I feel like that would go over really well. You know what also goes over really well? FightfulSelect.com, the best $5 in the business. How about that? You want your WWE contract news? It's over there on FightfulSelect.com. Warner, AEW news, we got that as well earlier this week. A lot of news, a lot of sources, a lot of stuff to talk about over on FightfulSelect.com. Best $5 in the business. Other services, whether you're watching streaming, if you're doing whatever in the world, the prices are going up, man. Inflation is real, but here on Fightful and Fightful Select, the best $5 in the business, we're not jacking up prices. We're not touching them. It's the $5 is where it starts. It stays that way. Interview notes before they're released. Higher tiers get interviews early. And, of course, tons of content, whether that's video, whether that's live. Ask Grapsity if you want Sour Graps with Kate and Alex. If you want the Weekender podcast with Steven Jensen, who joins us for pay-per-views. He'll be with us for Bound for Glory, talking about that show. If you want the indie experience, comes from Steven Jensen on the Weekender podcast and access to our Discord as well. $5 a month, FightfulSelect.com. If you're not there yet, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you should be here. And you should be watching Texas Deathmatch. My God. Mike Santana defeats JDC. I was told when this match happened live that this was the best match, that this was tons of fun. And they were not kidding. This match was everything that it was sold to me as. And I got to say, JDC, I always knew that Dango was good at this, that Johnny Curtis was good at this. This new version of himself in TNA has really been a lot of fun. I liked it when he did the whole tongue-in-cheek stuff, but now that he's doing I'm kind of with the system, but I'm kind of not, and I'm kind of brutal, but I'm kind of, I'm just doing my thing. This match was everything it needed to be. He was brutal, and he did everything, and so was Santana. He had the barbed wire bat, that busted everyone open. Santana's busted open. JDC's really busted open. He went ham with the blood. JDC power bombs Santana onto the spine of the chair. That looked gnarly. JDC gets a bad in the blood department, like I said, and then gets a back body drop onto the barricade. And then there's a dude just sitting at these tables. And they're like, that's our tech crew. He's just sitting there with a giant bucket of popcorn, just casually writing away. And he's like, huh? Oh, what's going on here? Oh, there's two guys bleeding and fighting all over the place. Oh, okay, that's nice. And I'm laughing. I'm just cackling. Eventually he gets up, because Santana puts JDC on top of that table, and then he teases a dive off of the stage. They have fought to the stage, which is they're out of the ring, they're on the floor, they're now on the stage, and then he's like, I'm going to dive off the stage through the tables where JDC says, no, I'm going to grab a ladder. And Santana grabs a ladder, opens it up on the top of the stage, climbs up about 4 rungs up, and then hits a giant splash through the tables onto the floor. JDC gets pinned 1, 2, 3, and then of course the Texas Death Match means you do the pin and then you got to count to 10. Do I love the count to 10 afterwards? No. That's kind of the way that TNA does a Texas Death Match, where you got to get the pin and then they count to 10. It's different from a last man standing match where it would just be count to 10, incapacitate them. No, this one you got to win. So it's like double the pain, double the humiliation. And I kind of like that, because the whole story with Santana is he's going to humiliate and take everything from the system. So it does work. It was just one of those, like, I don't love it if they do it normally, but in this match, I understand the reasoning for it. So Santana gets the win. He gets the count off on JDC, who cannot answer the 10 count after being pinned. And then post-match, Moose comes out, takes out Santana with a chair. If this is the Bound for Glory match, Moose versus Santana, what's the stipulation? Again, you have the bottleneck at the top of the card still exists, but I would love to see Moose and Santana in a some sort of match at Bound for Glory with some sort of stipulation. Moose says he's sticking around till the end of his contract, and he's still got a few years left. He sees this as his retirement contract, and he told us in February that it was a 5-year deal that he signed. So he's still got time. Santana, I've said it on this show with Cresta, next up. There's something going on with Santana, that he is the dude, and he shows and he proves it. He's up there. I'd love it. We'll find out. If you've got an idea as to what this could be, what this match is, maybe they'll tape it in Spartanburg. I don't know. But for me, Moose and Santana might just be one of those matches that you save for Bound for Glory if it's got a reason. Someone's saying Lethal Lockdown. That could be it. I'm worried about making Bound for Glory too gimmicky. There is such a thing. Remember when they took an entire pay-per-view and turned it into a Lethal Lockdown? A full cage match pay-per-view, maybe not so much. Remember when WWE had 3 Hell in a Cell matches in one Hell in a Cell pay-per-view? Too many Hell in a Cell matches. So I wonder what they'll do. Maybe they'll just do a First Blood. No, I don't want to do First Blood. Who knows? Full Metal Mayhem, someone's mentioning. There are options, but yeah, drop them in the comments. Maybe there's a good one that's going to happen, and that's the one they'll do. Either way, Moose and Santana are clearly on a collision course, and Santana absolutely wants that world championship when he gets the shot. Lei Ying Li, she's going to want the shot too. Who is Lei Ying Li? First of all, I got to learn to pronounce her name properly. Former Xia Li. Former, I guess, Xia Zhao, depending on where you are in the indie world. In TNA, she's going to be known as Lei Ying Li. Looking forward to that debut next week. I can tell you that the person that she is going to debut against next week is someone that we have interviewed on In the Weeds, so go check that out. Well, I can't tell you what it is. I can't tell you who it is because I don't want to spoil it, but it is someone that we did interview early in our In the Weeds career, so go check that out when I tell you next week. Joe Hendry comes out. He's got a promo. He's been interviewed on this particular platform multiple times. Sean Ross Sapp has an interview with him up here on youtube.com/Fightful. Hendry puts over his big win against Josh Alexander, Turning Point. Great match, by the way. One that I really enjoyed. One that didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome, and one that told a really good story. I love that there was the dick kicking, because that's what I'm all into when it comes to wrestling. How do you win a match? Kick a man in the dick. And Joe Hendry heard me because he was wearing a cup. One with his face on it. You ever done that before? I haven't. But now you know. Just wear a cup. That's what Joe Hendry did. He got the win. He got Josh Alexander to tap out. That's a big deal, especially if you're in the TNA world where you know Josh Alexander does not just tap out. This was a big thing. And now he wants success, but some people backstage don't want that. They don't want him to be a world champion, but he wants the world title now because he's beaten some of the best, including the longest reigning TNA world champion. And then out comes Frankie Kazarian, who for some reason was on commentary at Turning Point. When that happened, I saw Kazarian come out and I said, okay, clearly they're going to do Nemeth and Kazarian. That's been on the table for a while and it makes sense they're going to do it. I don't hate it. I just kind of saw it and I was like, oh shit. So Moose isn't going to win. And that means that Santana's not up next right now and blah, 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 blah. It's just, okay, there's more of a story here. We'll talk about that one at one point and how it pays off. But Kazarian comes out, does the heat, calls Texas fans fat, as one does, and then says to Hendry, you won one match. You're a one-hit wonder. You stuff your crotch. It's good for him. It stopped him from getting kicked in the dick. I also have to say, he mentions having a foreign object. This is live, by the way. We are live. And that Kazarian used a foreign object of his own in their match. Hendry and Kazarian did at Against All Odds. Kazarian had the foreign object, makeshift, whatever it was, and that's how he beat Joe Hendry. So I like that he makes allusion to it, but he doesn't actually point it out. He's just being that shitty heel that it's there. You got to know it. It was nice. I like that little added aspect to his promo. Kazarian's like, well, I deserve a world title shot. And looking at the wins that he has, yeah, Kazarian deserves a world title shot. Out comes Nick Nemeth, says Kazarian, shut the hell up, puts over Joe Hendry. And it's just what it is. And people are saying, Kazarian's not that interesting. I get that. Because Kazarian's been around for a very long time. Here's the thing about Frankie Kazarian. His promos may not get you moving, but his matches sure as hell do. And you're going to see next week, because Santino comes out and he makes Kazarian versus Hendry The winner gets Nick Nemeth at Bound for Glory. Now, I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say that this is a good match, Kazarian and Hendry, because we've seen it before, but also Hendry is just really good at putting together good, solid wrestling matches. I understand not loving the promos, but I can tell you, you'll like the match. Santana was like, we got to be quick. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And then in the main event, I don't have a lot to say about this. This is Masha Slamovich and the Hardys. They defeat Myers, Edwards, and Steels. Again, they're cleaning up the stuff from Victory Road. They're building the Hardys, and they're building Masha Slamovich for Bound for Glory. Hardys are over. They're always going to be over. Jeff Hardy's wearing Fiend face paint. That's been going around the internet today, but that was at the TNA tapings when he wore that, which was really cool stuff. Love it. Love that look. Love the way it looked. Masha is Masha. She is an excellent wrestler. She's got a lot of charisma. She's got a lot of stuff that people have been waiting for out of her, especially as a babyface. I've seen the babyface that she was in GCW when she had that title. When she won that GCW world title, she cut a promo because it was in New York where she resides. And like her family was there, and like she cut this babyface and passionate promo, and that's what I'm waiting to see. So now we're going to start seeing it in TNA, which is a bigger stage than GCW would normally be. And I'm excited for that. Hardys are the Hardys. they're going to go after the tag titles at one point because they should, because they're the Hardys. Alicia Edwards gets ejected by referee Paige Prinzavali during the match. She's trying to interfere with Masha. And then Lisha's like, I refuse to go. She's pouting and she's putting a fit, and then Ace of Base come out and they kind of drag her out, grab her by the shoulders and carry her out, which was funny. And then Slamovich takes out Masha Steele so that the Hardys can hit Twist of Fate on Edward Edwards and Brian Myers, and then Matt makes the pin after Jeff hits a Swanton Bomb on Brian Myers. Hardys pin the tag champions. Hardys are a couple of wins up. It could be a multi-team match at Bound for Glory, or could it just be straight up Hardys versus the system? What are we going to do? What should we do? To me, the Hardys on Bound for Glory, going for the tag titles, feels good. Looks good. Again, I don't want to go back to Ultimate X, but if you're going to do a multi-tag team Ultimate X match, I've seen that. I've been in the house for that. And that's a fun match. But you can't go back to Ultimate X again. And I've said this before, that was a problem that TNA had, or Impact had, in the 2022 or 2021 time when they were coming out and starting to tour again. You can't do that, but you can do a multi-team match. They could do a 4-way. They could do a straight up 1-on or 2-on-2 tag match between the Hardys and the system. You got to get there somehow, but there is plenty on the table for these two teams. You could do it again. People are saying steel cage. This is the problem. It's like, how many special Bound for Glory matches do you want to have? The titles will all be on the line, but in what capacity? Multi-person matches, gimmick matches. How far can you go to make the show interesting, fun, but not over the top? That's going to be the big line to be straddled. The world title match should just be 1-on-1. That should just be Nemeth versus whoever. Let's talk about Nemeth and Moose real quick. So Nick Nemeth retained the title over Moose at Victory Road. This match was good. This match was better than it should have been, but it was an overbooked mess. YouTube.com/FightfulOverbooked. I get to plug it. This all basically led to JBL coming back and clotheslining from hell members of the system so that they hightail it out of there, and then Nick Nemeth gets the win. Of course, JBL, in the lore, JBL did accompany Nick Nemeth in AAA when he had his match for the Mega Campeon Championship against Redacted. Doesn't matter who he was facing, but he was aligned with Nick Nemeth, was JBL. JBL has since appeared in GCW, TNA, MLW, and everywhere but TNA, he has been aligning himself with heel factions. Folks, if I'm a betting man, JBL is going to either turn on Nick Nemeth, or he's going to be the catalyst for a Nick Nemeth turn. And if that's the case, we'll be talking about it next week. That's my cliffhanger for y'all. JBL, there's a possibility that he gets involved in that match at Bound for Glory. Whoever Hendry is facing, or sorry, no, it's not Hendry, it's Hendry and Kazarian. So whoever Nick Nemeth is facing, because Nick Nemeth is the champion. So many names. Whoever Nemeth faces between Hendry and Kazarian, there's some stuff afoot. I think we'll be talking about it for quite a while. That's TNA Impact for September 19th, 2024. Did it by myself tonight. Maybe I'll bring someone on for next week. I don't know. But we're going to be a little fluid for the next little bit. JBL's not doing this out of boredom. JBL's doing this because he's still got some time. He's still got some stuff to prove in the wrestling world. And so far he's doing a pretty good job. I think that there's some good stuff with JBL, but I also just have to take a step back. We'll talk about what that could look like next week once we know who's going to be facing Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship. But it ain't going to be me. I'm just leaving thumbs up on videos and I'm subscribing to channels. That's what I'm doing. And I'm in the weeds every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on Fightful Overbooked. That's our sister channel. So go check that out. I'm going to be here next week, barring any circumstances. Leave a comment on the video. Tell us about how much you love these particular shows. And tell you what, I'm Rachael Pearl, JOELPEARL. Ladies and gentlemen, friends beyond the binary. We'll see you in the next one.